Okay, good morning. Again, this is Ron. It's Saturday morning. We'll go ahead and get started. Uh, a lot has taken place since the last time we got together last Monday. So we're going to fill your questions. And as I'm sure people have questions about the election. Uh, so let's get into it and what our concerns are, okay? So hold your questions for a while. I'm going to give it to Pastor, let him open us up, and then we'll get into it, okay? Thank you. Pastor?
Good morning. Thanks. As you said, there are a myriad of questions in reference to what transpired on Tuesday. And our greater concern is that there are fears as well about what is to come. And the major question, I suppose, would be what went wrong. And so I want to address those two things. However, prior to doing that, I would like to know what's on your minds in terms of your questions or your comments. And this is when I say this, I'm talking to everyone with the exception of the teachers.
Hey, Reverend Richard, when the moment that I saw that she was losing, and then when they actually said that, that no way that she could win, it was a feeling inside of me like a emptiness that I have never felt before when something happened. And I can't explain it. All I know, there was an emptiness inside of me. And it was like that all night. And even the next day, it's like it kind of gradually started easing off. Because then I found myself talking to other people that my neighbor said her daughter broke down and she was crying. My sister, she was just angry. She was just so angry. It's like if she probably had Trump in front of her, she'd have probably choked him. That's just her attitude she had. Then I found myself talking to her, and the more I kept talking to people, the more it better I got with the feeling that I had on the inside of me. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
This is Vermel.
Mhm.
I felt a sadness I'd never felt before, or I didn't recognize. And I guess the main question I have is, where do we go from here? How do we proceed forward with this? And I also feel very sad because I feel like we didn't do wrong, but the nation in and of itself, our nation, chose him, chose this direction. And I almost equate it to something Nick and you have said, that if we choose this, we're choosing maybe the harder road, even though we all have growth to do. Maybe this is the hard opportunity road. Those were my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Pastor, this is Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
I felt when I woke up the next morning, I kind of felt empty in a sense because I know there were some employees talking to me the day before about they had concerns and they was worried. And I said, why? I said, who is your God? I said, who do you believe in? And it just took them back to that, because there's no way we would ever know who we were going to get, even though we knew it was supposed to be a tight race. And then later on that night, I just had this pounding migraine. And so, I took something for it and went to sleep, and then I was fine the next day.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Let me ask this. You've heard from Teresa and you heard from Kathy Neal. Did that pretty much cover what most of you guys were feeling or thinking on Tuesday?
Hey, Pastor, this is Rania.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday night, I went through lots of feelings. At one point, I felt very calm, no matter the outcome. And I didn't watch any of the election coverage, but I was feeling, I would vacillate, right? Sometimes very scared, sometimes whatever. And at one point, I did reach a point of feeling calm about it. I will say, though, that the next day, and maybe it's just some of the energy I felt from others too, I was very angry. And I did not want to, I'd seen some Facebook posts where it was like, don't ask me for help again. You can't watch my back. I'm not helping you. So there was still a lot of anger, I would say, even with the calm. I wasn't surprised by the result. I was unhappy about it. But I just felt like I'm tired of having to be the one to try to come to the rescue, and nobody else wants to be rescued. And I picked up that on a lot of the posts I'd seen on Facebook too. But I just, that next day, the next couple of days, I'm tired. I'm like, I can't give right now. I know that'll change, but definitely this feeling of I'm done right now. Why am I trying to save a country that doesn't want to be? So that's what, for me, was going on.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just love the honesty.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I'm hearing, the depth of the honesty, Ron.
Yeah.
But also the common thread. The common thread of anger. Why? Why is it that with this election, there's a tremendous amount of anger in regards to the outcome when that has not been the case in the past? Why? The last election with Trump, there was no anger. So why was there anger this time? That's one of the things I want to address. I also want to address what Rainier said about she's tired of trying to save a country that doesn't want to be saved, or a people who doesn't want to be saved. When it comes to why are you angry, could it possibly be something that I was not going to address, but could it possibly be that you're angry because it just didn't feel right? Could that be it? Rainier, Teresa, Kathleen, those of you who spoke, could that possibly be it?
That is possible for me. I definitely
Yeah.
feel like this didn't feel right.
Same here.
Same here.
Is there anyone else who this did not feel right with?
Well, me.
There's this. Oh, sorry.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say it still doesn't feel right, but go ahead. Go ahead, Radio.
No, I was just going to say there's this other person I know who, on all of her posts about this She just says something is wrong. That's all she says. That's it. Like no other words. Her response to other people, something is wrong. And that has hit me. It's just 3 words, right? But you go, whoa.
I've heard that continuously this week, but more so now, and in some posts that I read. Before I address that, I want to say a couple of things. One is I was very uncomfortable about what happened. I was angry. However, I've begun to understand something. The reason I was feeling the way I was is because I was doing a political analysis rather than a spiritual assessment. I saw what happened politically because that's deeply ingrained in me. And I should not have been looking at it from through the eyes of politics rather through the eye of spirituality. And I didn't do that. The moment that I sat with the ancestors and my next when I woke up the next morning, that's when I saw it spiritually. So I want to say to you guys that we did not lose. Nothing went wrong. Everything went right. What do I mean by that? And don't worry, I'm still going to address the anger issue. What do I mean by that? What do we mean by that? Everything went right. The political rightness of it would have been Kamala Harris being the first female president of this country. Am I right? That would have been the political right thing that we were looking for. But the spiritual thing is what we had talked about earlier. And that is the African mother, the cosmic mother, the mother of Akabelon, taking her rightful place on the throne of the universe, meaning that the energy of femininity taking the throne in the universe. That happened. And what happened is there was a greater exposure than we could have ever dreamed of. For the last, 10 years, we have been talking about exposure. Even prior to 2016, we were talking about everything in this country needed to be exposed. And one of the one of the principles that was spoken during that time was what Nick said, just be. Set your intentions and just be. And what we have seen since then was the exposure of the depth, the dark underbelly of this country. And when Trump was elected the first time, the first words out of my mouth were, "He's the best thing that ever happened to Black folk." I still believe that. Kamala Harris was a representation of all feminine energy. And when I say, what I'm saying by that is this: the feminine energy of the universe is represented or manifested, dare I say, in the form of a feminine essence, a feminine body, or females in these bodies. And what did that feminine energy do? What it did, it brought everything to the forefront. It did something that Obama could never have done because of his masculinity. It did something that Obama could never have done because of the depth of his support for the current system. She had what she did without even knowing it was expose the desires, the deep-seated desires of this country, not just the desires of white men. We've always known what those desires are. But she also showed that the overwhelmingly governing force in this country is racism, white supremacy. She exposed that. But also, what we have talked about is, in order for us to have balance, humanity had to come together based on being human as opposed to being different races coming together. We also said that in order for us to see the manifestation of balance, it had to be something that was worldwide. And we knew that it was going to be a struggle to get there to that space where we could actually see that manifested. Well, what happened during the course of this campaign and culminated on November 5th was Kamala Harris, the energy of the cosmic mother separated the wheat from the chaff. The cosmic mother exposed all of those who believe that this is a world to be ruled by white males, but it also exposed that white women are who they are, meaning that white women are stand by your man people. And there are males of African descent who did the same thing, but not to the degree that they thought they would do it. So this exposure was a victory in that right now there are people organizing to make sure that certain things don't happen. There is one group, something called 4B. Are you familiar with that? 4B is an organization that had its birth in Korea, South Korea, when they were fighting against the, what do you call it? When you sexual tapes that were being recorded by men during the course of having sex with their mates and being sold to other people on a website and being shared worldwide. Those women came together, and 4B stands for no sex, no children, no dating. What's the other B? One more, Nick. What is it? You shook your head like you've heard of it.
Get married.
Yeah, no marriage. Thank you, George. No marriage. Those 4Bs. And it's just picking up steam on various social media sites, especially among young women. Now, let me stop here for a moment. Are there any questions, or are you understanding what I'm trying to say? And this for anyone, inclusive of the teachers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is Barbara. I know that you're going to talk about the anger and the fear, but as you were talking, I could see that the anger and the disappointment had to do with having seen a glimpse of what harmony and balance was like in the Harris push for presidency, and then having seen that glimpse, it for some of us it helped to set an expectation, and that expectation was that we wanted to see something physical that represented this having occurred. But in truth, it did occur. It occurs in the spiritual. And that's what we've got to remember. It's already done. but we have to make sure that we don't tie our expectations
Barbara,
into what our eyes see, but what our spiritual eye sees. So just because we don't see what we expected to see physically, does not mean that there has not been a shift in energy. And that shift of energy starts with us acknowledging that shift of energy within ourselves.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think to further support that, let us not think for a minute that the Creator did not lead us in this direction. And that's not a cop out. If you go back and look
Ron, hold on a second, please. We
Sure.
get feedback from someplace. Would you make sure your phones are muted? Speak again, Ron.
I was just saying, do not think that the Creator didn't have a hand in, and we have been led, especially since we come on this phone, by what we see, what we feel, and what we experience. And this thing fell into place so that when Biden blundered that debate, things started falling into place. And that is what we saw. And so we followed and are still following what we see and what we feel. And as Barbara and Pastor have said, things have taken place that you can't see with your physical excuse me. So we followed the Creator this direction, and we are still following. So the spiritual things, part of this is what we wanted to happen. It just did not manifest itself with our physical eyes. So that's the part that needs to be addressed, because that's the part, the physical eyes is the part that brings about the fear that needs addressing. But this all happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Thank you.
I'm new to the group, and haven't been privy to your discussions, but I feel a sense of having been here before, because your spirits touch me. And I have to say that during the time that Kamala burst on the scene, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. That hasn't changed. What was missing when the announcement was made of the results was joy was replaced with anger. I wasn't afraid. I was angry. And I feel like it had been stolen from us. And because what happened was, it wasn't an election, it was a movement. It was a grass movement. And it was grassroots movement. And it was energy that we needed to go forward, no matter what the outcome. And what it made me do, I was angry, I was upset for one day. I gave myself one day. And then I started thinking about how I could better use my energy to help make life different for us. And I think that I know God has a reason for everything he does. He doesn't make any mistakes. And so I know that this allowed us to see who America is, and it reinforced who America is. But that does not mean that we're defeated. That does not mean that we give up. We are the most resilient people God ever created. And we can overcome anything as long as he's in the midst. So I've listened to some groups about, their plans and what they want to do. I've watched the Hispanics panicking because of the decisions that they made, and they're casting about for people to work with them and support them and save them. And all I'm asking is, for God to keep me from being resentful and to keep me focused, because my focus is on my family, my friends, my community, our businesses and our community, how I can support them and just bring us together as a people. And I feel like that's what this was all about. You know, helping us to focus, because we lost focus. Well, I'll speak for myself. I lost focus. And I was trying to do a lot of things in a lot of different places, and I was spread myself thin. And it was time for a reset. So I'm grateful to have lived to this time and to be able to participate with you. And I thank you for your patience.
Guys, this is Cheryl. We went to Federal City College together. And we talked, and she wanted the number to our meeting. So she's introduced herself. So
Welcome. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you.
Welcome, Cheryl.
Welcome, Cheryl.
any other comments or questions?
I just want to say, with Cheryl not having been a part of our previous discussion, she hit so many nails on the head that we've been talking about, and one of the key issues is that focus and that and making sure we don't have this distraction take away from the focus that we've been targeted and that we've targeted. And so, thanks, Cheryl, for saying that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess one other thing I wanted to offer, Pastor. It's amazing to me that people are not thinkers, let alone reading and being fact finders, but we don't think. And that amazes me that people can tell us something and lead us around. I was looking at some data. During the Civil War, less than 1%, it was 1% of the Southern population that owned 200 or more slaves. There was 20% that owned at least one slave. And the rest of them did not have the means to own a slave or be but the majority of those people fought and died in the Civil War. And I don't know how they were convinced that this was in their best interest when they actually had nothing to gain. And that mentality still holds true to this day. And that just amazes me that people don't think. They see what, and it also proves that the thing that you see with your eyes does not move to convince you what truth looks like. Because there's no way you could look at this man and see a convicted felon, a rapist, a convicted rapist, and you say he's the most godly choice in the nation. So that it speaks to me what our job is and what lies before us, that how indeed spiritual this is, and hopefully kind of give some direction anyway.
Mr. Ron, can I add on to what you're talking about?
Of course.
For me, I felt disappointed and hurt when the results came out. And to tie on to what you're saying, everybody has been informed of who this person is, but people are constantly saying, well, who is Kamala? We don't know about her. Her track record is evident. You could pull it up. And still, they are running back to their abuser the person who has basically denigrated women, people of color, people in the military. And quite frankly, if I were a female, I had to work around him as a convicted felon and rapist, I will feel highly uncomfortable. And but this is what the nation has chose. This is what you're saying that you're allowing your daughters to be around. This is what you're telling young men. This is what you should look up to because he became president. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
And first of all, let's look at that. White men during the Civil War, they were fighting for white supremacy. They were not fighting for slavery. They didn't care one way or the other because they didn't have any. They were fighting for white supremacy just as they are today, to make sure that white men are in charge, even though they're dirt poor, but a lot of them are not. As to the character that Myra mentioned in relationship to women working around men who have been convicted of sexual molestation, white women have always subjected themselves to that. They have always, and what I mean by that, if you look at the period of enslavement and sharecropping, they knew that those children walking around that plantation who were mixed race belonged to their husbands. They knew that. And yet they still supported them. They, just like they support them to this day. In terms of working around them, look at the number of people who worked around Trump in his first administration, and they did not talk about what happened until almost 8 years later. So again, these people have submitted them, convinced themselves that there's nothing they can do about it. Look at the lady who sued him for sexual molestation in a dressing room in a department store. Look how many years it took her to come after him. So these kinds of things are ingrained in this society, acceptance, and even more worse than that, when we look at how white men, even my God, when I was a kid, I remember hearing about white men who would go into a black man's house and he had to sit on the porch while he had sex with his wife, and that was during my time, and I'm sure it's still going on in some places in the Deep South anyway. That was one of the ways chosen to degrade the family structure, as well as degrade, take away the manhood of a man by saying, I can do this to your wife or your daughter, and there's nothing you can do about it. So those things are ingrained in this society. The other thing is that Ron was talking about, we don't think. Well, the idea of thinking left with integration. White people, for the most part, have never been thinkers. They have been robbers. They plagiarized everything. They took from other people, but they've never really been thinkers. When people were presenting themselves as thinkers, especially after integration, what did they see? During integration, or assimilation, I should say, during that period of assimilation in 1974, what they saw was that the African students excelled far beyond the white students that they were sitting beside. They saw that. And that's when they began to change the trajectory of education. And when they did that, they put education in the hands of corporations, and education became a source of indoctrination. And the indoctrination came because they recognized something. They recognized that they had to keep people from understanding civics. They had to keep people from understanding how the government functioned. They had to keep people from understanding the foundation of this nation being based on genocide. They had to keep them from understanding, learning any type of history whatsoever other than what was given to them. And they also took music out of the schools because the music was one of the things that Africans used to soothe themselves, but not only that, to protest. So all of and if you listen at the music of the 60s, war is not the answer. When you listen at the music of the 60s, you hear anti-war phrases in the lyrics. So all of these things were understood, heard rather, by white men. And what did they do? They made efforts to eliminate every bit of it, and they did it. And when they did it, it left the country, especially us as a people, trying to assimilate into a society that was never designed for us to be a part of. And that attempt at assimilation continues to this day. So this whole idea of white men fighting in a civil war or white men voting against their self-interest, white men have never voted against their self-interest, ever. Think about that. White men have never voted against their self-interest. Even if they lived in a trailer with 2 teeth, no windows in the trailer, with a hole in the floor and chickens running around on the roof, they have never voted against their self-interest. Because their interest is not health care, it's not retirement benefits, it's not a great job, it's not even wealth. Their interest is white supremacy, period. And they will do anything to maintain that. So, however, everyone else has voted against their self-interest. The only people in this country who did not have a choice but to vote against their self-interest are people of color. White women voted against their self-interest. People of color did not vote against their could never vote for their interests, because people of color, especially Africans in this country, had to make a choice between the lesser of the two evils. Because every one of us know, and we knew, that regardless of who got in that office, nothing, very little of anything was going to change for us as a people. Nothing changed as a people, but for individuals it did. Meaning that there were tokens put in places to make us feel like we were free, simply because there were no shackles on us. Not realizing that the shackles are still there. It's just simply the shackles are in a different way. That's all. Anything else before I talk about something that went wrong in the anger, the fear?
One thing I thought about with your last comments, Pastor, was the day after the election, they kept saying, there'll be 2 Black women in the Senate now. Almost like a gimme, like a, there you go. You have 2 Black women in the Senate now. You should be so happy. And I think that upset me more than anything else. Because, it's just like, oh, just be happy with the 2 you got. That's more than you've ever had. And why are you complaining?
Irania, that same thing was said when Brooks from Massachusetts, Black guy from Massachusetts, was elected to the Senate. Well, you have a Black man in the Senate. That's more than you ever had, that kind of stuff. Again, now these 2 women who got elected, they got elected not because of tokenism. But anyway, I understand exactly what you're saying, and that is usually the case. And that same attitude prevailed when there were Africans moving into corporate positions. Well, you have some Black people who are in corporate America now, but nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed. I was listening to some people discuss why were there so many guns, military type weapons in Chicago. And they were talking about this guy who came off the street said that that when trains were delivering weapons to the military, that those freight trains were stopped and the weapons were stolen from the trains. The question was raised, how is it that a military shipment of weapons is coming through a city and people on the street knows that what time that train is going to stop and where it's going to stop? And the question was, were they being told? So those kinds of things are out there for the express purpose of keeping us where we have always been, and that is in a position of servitude. It also, this election also sought to further divide masculine from feminine, in that all you heard was black men go vote for Trump. Remember that? This was not just people who were involved in the election. This was also talking heads. Black men are going to support Trump, and that never materialized. As far as the anger and the fear, fear comes from projection. Fear comes from not knowing. Fear comes from not understanding. Since we are where we are, understanding that we are actually gods in the earth. We are divine in nature. We understand that from Akebalon, the womb of Akebalon, came all people on this earth. And we understand that the premier power in the universe is that of femininity coupled with masculinity, with the womb of femininity being the essence and that brings balance to the whole of humanity. We know this, and we've been talking about this. You cannot believe that you are God, that you are Elohim. You cannot believe that you are in the image and likeness of your Creator. And let me back up a second with that, please. When we talk about the image and likeness of a Creator, we are not talking. We have in our mind the image of a man, because we talk about God as He. We talk about the man, Jesus, who never existed. We talk about that, but we never talk about what does that mean. So we are not talking about masculinity in terms of a man when we talk about being created in image and likeness. We're talking about being created in the image and likeness of, guess what? The principles of Ma'at.
Okay. Yeah.
And the principles of Ma'at are feminine. So being created in that image, in the principles of Ma'at, means that it is not our physical attributes that is that image. It is our spiritual awareness that allows us to see the image and to live the image that we were created in. Our physical bodies are simply manifestations that reminds us of the existence of feminine and masculine energy. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Yes.
So, with that understanding, we are told in no uncertain terms that we are the creators in this earth. And the manifestation of that reality is this. There is absolutely nothing in this earth, excuse me, especially in modern times, but there's nothing in this earth that was brought into existence by way of creation, or by way of invention, rather, that we did not invent as Africans. Not one thing. There have been improvements on things that were invented, but there was nothing invented by anyone else. That in itself is a manifestation of a spiritual truth. And that spiritual truth is we are not only creators, we are inventors too, which means that in the material sense, we are creating an environment that makes it easier, that makes it more convenient for people to exist in these for us to exist in these human bodies. So why would we be afraid of anything? When we embrace that fully, there is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. And what you're going to hear me in the future doing is referencing what is Africa as Akabalon. Why? Because Africa is a physical name that was given to a body of land by a group of rapists, robbers, and colonizers and imperialists. When we talk about Akabalon, we are talking about the spiritual essence of the cradle of life itself. Akabalon means the garden of life, or the Garden of Eden, as the scriptures talk about it. So with that understanding and knowing the origin and essence of who we are, there is no reason for us to be afraid of anything. Any questions about that before I talk about anger?
No,
Comment?
sir. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you.
Well, I think, Pastor, that I agree with everything you're saying. And I think it's going to take us saying this over and over and over and over and over and over before people really get it, because we've been so indoctrinated with other things, religion in particular, that it's hard to take off those old clothes and put on the new ones, to use a religious idiom. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to say it over and 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 over for people to really finally sort of take it on. Not even really understand it, but for them to even get it in their heads.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I really do.
But see, fear has been put on us in layers, and it has not been removed. There's nothing that come until now. We're talking. There's nothing that has come along to say you don't let this bother you or bring any type of comfort. Fear has been put on us in layers through generations, and don't think that we don't carry that burden. So when Audrey says we have to say it over and over again, that's what part of what this thing is, that the battle is releasing all of that, releasing all of those things that happened not only during slavery but after slavery, when you were taught how to read the scriptures and who God was and who Jesus was to you, and there was death or punishment for not doing it. You were told what jobs to have, what neighborhoods to live in. You were brought into poverty so high that not only I can have your women that I want to, but I'm going to ease your burdens by bringing you drugs and alcohol into your neighborhoods. So all of that has been piled on us. So I see all of this coming to a head because fear is a very real thing in our neighborhood that has to be released and has to be removed. And maybe that too is, as has been said, one of the reasons this had to happen the way it was, so that we can address this thing from that perspective and look at the root cause of what all this is.
Thank you. And I agree with that. Anyone else?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the bringing up the concept of the religious attitude that is sort of underlying a lot of this in that something I believe is that Trump is the sort of incarnation of the result of the true religion of America being brought to a head. And that true religion of America is not Christianity or anything like that. It is sort of, roughly speaking, conservatism. And underneath that is the sort of dominance of the European and the dominance of the means by which the European mindset sort of attempts to maintain its control over everything. So it's that same religious mindset that gets people to sort of vote against their interests in strange ways, because it is a sort of adherence to not what reality attempts to show you, but adherence to a belief, whether or not that belief comes from reality or where it came from at all is not really questioned, because that'll get you kicked out of the religion. So I just see a similarity between the religious mindset of religion itself, in particular Christianity, and the mindset that got Trump elected. And those are very much connected, I think.
So Nick, from what you just said, the true religion of America has a conservative underpinning, European mindset, but is that still not basically white supremacy? In other words, I've got to be number one and everything else falls underneath. It's not us in this together kind of thing. It is me first and then however you fall out underneath me. That's white supremacy.
Yes, ma'am.
That's Christianity.
Yep.
I want to read something, if I may. I came across this, and on one of my feeds, and this is what this lady wrote. She said, "We're the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to sing and to praise our demeanment. I'm a bitch, I'm a hoe, I'm a gangster, I'm a thug, I'm a dog. If you can train people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what happened." That's one of the things that we have to deal with in the macro. Self-esteem. All of that comes from fear. Afraid to be who you are. Because everyone who has stood up to be who they are, we have seen them killed. And Christianity cheers every bit of it. Christianity has been the motivating factor in white supremacy. There is no difference between white supremacy, Christianity, the US government. No difference in that at all. How is it that we can embrace? But let me back up a bit. 4 million years, Africans have been on this earth, and we did not know anything about spirituality. We did not know anything about a creator until Christianity told us, and it was invented 2,000 years ago. So why was Christianity brought into existence? Christianity was never brought into existence for people to go to heaven or to believe in God. If you look at the origin of Christianity, it was brought into existence as a method of control. a method of enslavement, imperialism, and colonialism. A method to control. And guess what? The primary people who were targeted for this control were not white people, were not Spanish people, it was Africans. Because they recognized the spiritual essence of the African from the time that the Lemhi first sat on that throne in Egypt in 335. That is the reason we have to keep repeating, as Audrey said, over and over again, these tenements of truth and origin. Because if we don't do that, we will not get to the place where people widely embrace the reality of their essence. And we see a movement in place. Not only the movement that Cheryl referred to, but also a movement away from Christianity, away from it. Our kids are looking at the universe for guidance, not Christianity, because there is something in them that tells them that this is not what it is. This is the thing that kept us in bondage. That itself, Christianity teaches fear. Christianity undergirds fear. Christianity reinforces the fear. Just pray, and it's going to change. We've been praying for 400 years, and nothing has changed. Nothing. The only thing that changed through prayer was white folk ended up with Africa, and we ended up in slavery. That's the only thing that changed. Right now, that in Haiti, the reason that this nation and the Europeans are making an effort to get into Haiti is because they discovered a mineral in Haiti, and that mineral sells for $45 billion a ton, and they have mountains of it in Haiti. And the only two places on the face of the earth where it exists is in South Africa and in Haiti. $45 billion a ton. And it is necessary for us to have electronic equipment and to enhance what it can do, what we can do with it. This mineral is essential for that. Everything that we see in Haiti was orchestrated. So they could, under the pretext of going into Haiti to bring order, so they could rob Haiti of its mineral. And I'm gonna make a declaration to you, they will never do it. Anywhere else in the world, they may be successful, but not in Haiti. And the reason I say that is because Haiti is the only country in the world that overthrew slavery successfully. And it will not happen there because of the energy there. Now, the gangs in Haiti, they are gangs, yes, but their cause is more noble than the cause of America, because America instigated every bit of it. When we were in college, there were several people we went to school with who were from Haiti. Matter of fact, Ghislaine Paul, one of the ladies who worked in the foreign language office, her daddy was the treasurer for Haiti. And through her, we learned a lot about how this country and others were manipulated in Haiti. And during that period of time, they had not discovered this mineral there, but during that period of time, they were manipulating Haiti in order for them to not only produce the abundance of rice that they were capable of doing, but also making sure that Haiti made that payment to France every year in order to keep them in poverty. Won't go any deeper into that. So this fear, as Ron stated, has been layered upon us and is still being layered upon us. And everything that Donald Trump says about what he's going to do, everything in Project 2025 is designed to instill fear, to reinforce the fear. And the fear that it reinforces is not for white people, it's for us. It's to keep us afraid. And yes, there are going to be examples made of us in order to enhance that fear. Hispanics are going to face some hard times in the future because of the primary promise of Trump, where he had two primary promises: go after his enemy and deportation. Now, are there any other comments about this fear before we talk about the anger? I think the anger comes from a deep-seated knowing. I was not going to talk about this, but I think I need to. There is a deep-seated knowing that we cannot prove yet, that we have not seen it, but there's something went wrong. How many of you on Zoom right now who made that statement or who felt that something went wrong?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Something went
Yep.
wrong. And those of you who are on the phones, are there any of you? We can't see you, but we can hear you. Something went wrong. How many of you felt?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
That's the
Yes.
thing I want to talk about. That's where your anger comes from. The realization that something went wrong. If you look at something went wrong from the political aspects of it, I think I can help you see it. If you think that something went wrong from the spiritual aspects of it, then we are wrong, because nothing went wrong spiritually. It happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. It happened in order for us and everyone else to see what America is, who white men are, who white women are. It happened to show us that. And this idea of something having gone wrong also shows us who America is. America has never won without cheating. America has never won without taking advantage of people. And all of the things that Trump did when he was in the White House, you're not going to tell me that Democrats did not know what he was doing. They knew. And they did nothing to stop it, because they were complicit in everything that he was doing. Why? Because white men don't fight white men unless money is involved. As long as there's people, they don't care. So what could have possibly gone wrong? First of all, there was a rift between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And this is purely political. I want you to understand that. It has nothing to do with spirituality, except for the reality that the creator orchestrated it. That's it. But what was orchestrated is what I'm talking about. There was a rift between them because Elon said that he was going to give Donald Trump X number of millions of dollars every week until the election. And he reneged on it. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He reneged on it. Then all of a sudden, he's making phone calls to Russia. And he and Putin are talking. And now he comes and says that he is going to give, he's a primary player in Donald Trump's campaign. So why is it that the rift was fixed? He's an expert or have experts working for him who can write an algorithm for anything. Now ask yourself this question. Why is it that no one paid any attention to Donald Trump when he said, I don't need you to vote? We have all the votes we need to win. You remember that?
Said it more than once.
Yes, several times.
And he also said, if he got in, you would never have to vote again.
Right. Why would he say that? Why did he say that? Why did he say that I have all the votes I need or we need to win? Why? Ask yourself this question or these questions. This is the seat of the anger because you know something went wrong. From the Kamala had 170 days to do what she did. She raised over $1 billion in 170 days. Everyone was talking about the number of votes that were being cast during early voting. That it was going to take days, if not weeks, to count all these votes. Remember that? So, everyone was talking about this is the highest turnout ever. So if that is the case, then why is it that there were less votes counted than it was in the previous election if this was the highest turnout ever? And I think it's to the tune of maybe 17, 18 million votes. Why is it less? Not only that, why is it that if this was the heaviest turnout ever, and people knew how long it was going to take to count these votes, that they did it in less than 12 hours? And were able to determine a winner in less than 12 hours. Why is that? How did that happen?
Well, you remember they made that remark about Georgia switching to the same system that Florida used.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, when did they make that decision? Because that happened like in the blink of an eye.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they had the numbers.
Hold on 1 second. Would you mute your phones, please? Go ahead.
First, they were complaining about the people changing the rules and making changes, last minute changes. And then the next thing I knew, they were saying that the numbers were coming in and that Georgia had changed their way of counting the votes based on what Florida did.
Yes.
And I'm saying, well, they never said anything about that before. How does that happen? Who approved that? And what does that mean? What does that look like? So, I mean, to me, there were a lot of irregularities. And I think that's what bothers us. I mean, because we are people of energy. We feel things that other folks don't. We know something is wrong. We can't tell you what it is. It's like when your baby is sick and you don't know what's wrong with that baby, but based on how that baby is acting, you know something is wrong. You feel in your heart that something is wrong. The energy is wrong. He's usually playful and running around and happy. And now, he's lethargic. Something's wrong. The same with this system. We know something is wrong. We know they did something nasty. We can't prove it. We don't know what it is. We may never know what it is. But in our being, in our spiritual selves, we know that they did something nasty.
Thank you. And this is what I want to say. Please do not get off until we finish, because I want you to understand something. I want to reiterate it at the end. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying this for you to seek out some conspiracy or try to figure out what happened. I don't care what happened. It doesn't matter what happened. The only reason I'm talking about this, something I did not intend to talk about, is because this is the seat of your anger. Knowing that something went wrong and not being able to put your finger on it, that's the seat of the anger. When someone has done something to you and you cannot figure out who did it or how they did it, that's the seat of the anger. That's not the seat of fear. That's the seat of anger in the depth of your knowing. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
the seat.
sir.
Beg your pardon? Did I hear Sheldon? Nah. But that's the seat of your anger. And that's the seat of the anger across the board. And I submit to you that the best thing that we can do is stay the course. Stay the course. Do not get caught up in these conspiracies. Do not get caught up in anything that's going to distract you from this spiritual journey that we're on. This is the only thing in this earth that's real. The
Yeah.
spiritual journey. Everything else is temporary. Will this come out? As Cheryl said, we may never know. But there may be someone who tells it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Because even if they tell it, what's going to change? The Supreme Court going to say it's not true. So it does not matter. What Kamala Harris manifested through the following the energy of the universe without her even knowing what she was doing to this day, she still doesn't know. What she did was create the perfect storm. Everything from Congress to presidency to the Supreme Court and even to the federal courts around the country are in the hands of those who seek to remain in power, white supremacists. Everything is in their hands. A great economy is in their hands. After January, you're going to see the inheritance of a very strong economy. You want a king, you got the king. Your king is money. Now let's see, can your money save you from destruction? Let's see how your money is going to undergird, it's going to strengthen you. Weapons, you have the most dangerous weapons on the face of the earth, but you've also always been the most dangerous people on the face of the earth. You've always been war, not warlike. You've always been the creators of wars for selfish reasons, for whatever you want. Let's see how that's going to benefit you. All we need to do is remain the children of Cabelon and act that way. Children of Cabelon do not seek to harm anyone. Children of Cabelon, all we do is seek to bring a spiritual awareness into this earth realm. All we do as the children of the sun is to bring the energy of righteousness into and infuse it into an environment where unrighteousness seemingly has always prevailed. I have felt that. I went through those changes after the election, but those were political changes that I was going through. They were not spiritual. And when I got my head on straight, when I communed with the ancestors, I was angry because I felt nothing as I attempted to commune. But the next morning, I realized they had spoken. Here we are. The ancestors have spoken. The ancestors have said, for years, we have known that the African would not change anything in this country through politics. Votes will never change anything. They are too easily manipulated. The only thing that will change everything is spirituality. And no one on this earth, no one on this earth is more in tune with the spirituality, with the essence, with the energy, with the rhythm of the universe than the African. And it matters not to me how people feel about what I'm saying. It doesn't matter, because no longer will I be put in a place of indecisiveness simply because you say I'm playing a race card. The hell with that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not playing a race card. I'm playing a card of reality. Why is it that I'm playing a race card when I speak the truth about what's happening, and you're not playing a race card every day?
So you're playing a truth card, which trumps, pun intended, any kind of race card, any kind of white supremacy, any kind of ism or schism or whatever. The truth trumps all of that. And it certainly trumps the God of money.
Absolutely. And that's the prevailing God in the earth right now. The God of money. It prevails on the surface, but not in reality. It prevails on the surface, but not in reality. There is no amount of money that would change where we are. Elon Musk have more money than anybody else in the world. And I think it was necessary for Elon Musk to take the position that he's in right now. I think it's necessary for him to be a part of this government. He bought it, let him have it. Because the universe is going to show something. All the money in the world will not be able to stop this movement. It doesn't matter. The money in this world, the wealth of this world, Master Musa showed what it was for. It was for the benefit of all of humanity and not for a chosen few. And that must be our guidance through this journey. Every single time we begin to talk about things of this nature or other things, and the energy field is so strong, I began to hear my printer start cleaning or something. Instead, it started making noise. It's like the energy has increased and it can't resist it. I'm good with that.
It's those high frequency vibrations. They do it every time.
Yeah. So, are there any questions or comments about this?
I have a question, sir.
Good morning.
Right ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
My question is with the deportation of the immigrants, the mass deportation that he's trying to do, what type of impact is that going to have on the people and the government and daily lives? The meaning for that is because they maintain the things in this country, their responsibilities and duties. So how much of a negative impact would that have, or have they considered that, or has the people, the voters, do they even care?
What I'm saying in essence, Myra, is that the impact doesn't matter. It has to be what we see as a negative impact for us to see a positive result. Now, let's look at it economically and politically. In order to deport approximately 11 million people, it will cost approximately $350 billion. There are not enough agencies or agents to do it at this time. There's not enough transportation controlled by the government to do it. There will have to be illegal things done in order to pull it off, kicking in doors. But the major illegal thing that will have to happen is that no one goes before an immigration court. Anyone who's being deported, according to the previous rulings of the Supreme Court, anyone being deported has to have a hearing before an immigration court. And there has never been enough money to finance the immigration court to the extent that they have enough judges or attorneys. So that in itself is an impossibility in terms of what is being planned. Now, can it happen? Of course it can, because it happened with Eisenhower. And all he did was rounded up people and took them out of the country. Yes, it can happen. But even though it will be illegal, what we must understand is illegalities only apply to people of color.
Thank you, sir.
Think about it. Illegalities only apply to people of color. The disruption, yes, there will be disruption. But we have been living in convenience too long on the backs of other people and thinking that everything is hunky-dory. This is a period of decisiveness. It is going to be a hardship, but we have to make a decision whether or not we are willing to stay the course without regard to the hardship that we must go through. These hardships, let me share this. Back in the day when we were traveling, the hardship that we faced were that we would never get a job. We could graduate, but you would not go get a job. Corporate America made sure, we're going to make sure of that. FBI was keeping a record of what we were doing. Our names were in a system to keep us out of certain places. Those were hardships. We had to watch our back, not because somebody on the street was going to kill us. It was because in the Deep South, there were white folks. In the North, it was policemen. We had to watch ourselves. These were hardships that we had to endure. When Phoebe came to DC to visit, she had a bodyguard, didn't even know it. There was someone always watching my apartment 24/7 while she was there. These are the hardships that we had to endure. Being pulled over at 3 o'clock in the morning, carried to a police station. All these things that we had to endure. I remained handcuffed to the wall in the police station from around 10 o'clock that Saturday morning until almost 12 o'clock that Saturday night. Hands swollen, and all they're doing is tightening the handcuffs until the people surrounded the police station. These are the hardships that we went through. So why is it that we now, since we got some jobs, since we got homes, why is it that we feel like we can avoid these hardships? Is not going to happen. People do not move unless there are hardships. You don't find out how committed people are until the rubber meets the road. And these migrants, they have to suffer because they broke the migrant men, the men, what is that? The people who are in this country from South America particularly, these people doubled the numbers that they had voted for Trump in. They voted for Trump. 56% of all Hispanic males voted for Trump. 56%. Never happened before that they voted in those numbers. And here this man, fourth generation in this country, still calling himself a Cuban. They ain't never been to Cuba. And leading the way for Trump, bringing hardship to those around him. And he is the architect of this movement towards Trump. They will not respond in a positive way unless they face hardship. People don't change unless they force to change. It is not our responsibility to try to change the political trajectory of anything. It is our responsibility to stay in rhythm with the universe and help people navigate this celestial ball called Earth. Help them navigate this life, that the only life that they are familiar with, and help them to see that there is life that's beyond this thing that we have seen as life. We have to step back from our desires to intervene politically and only intervene spiritually. That's who we are. My desire to the ancestors, my desire to you guys is to help me purge myself of these political emotions, but maintain the political the political analytics that I have. I do not want to lose the ability to analyze politics, but I do not want the emotions that were expressed earlier when I was doing that analogy. Does that help you, Myra?
Are you speaking, Myra?
You're on mute, Myra.
It does. It does, sir. It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question though. You said people don't change unless they face hardship. And we're sitting here talking about the fact that that we need to say things over and over and over and over and over for people to get it. Does that mean that we as African Americans will face the same hardships until we get it?
Yes. It means that we will continue to face them until we get it. Think about it. If you look at uprisings, if you look at the Mama in Kenya, they did not change anything. Jomo Kenyatta did not come into power until they got tired. So the Kikuyu were tired of the oppression of the British. And look what happened. So yes, I'm saying that we are going to face hardship. Now, this is the other thing. We as a people are already facing hardship, but we have grown so accustomed to them, we don't even feel it. We respond to it internally because of the trauma of it, but we don't process it as a hardship. Think about that. You are an African man in America, and you're coming home at 1 o'clock at night, and you live in a gated community, and you get inside that gate, and the security pulls you over and calls the police, and you have to prove that you live in that neighborhood. You go to work, and you are into this building, this corporate building, and you're in casual clothes because you're not going to be there long. And you get stopped by security and they refuse to accept your ID. Now the police is called, you're arrested, and you have to call somebody in the company to verify who you are. And that person that you have to call is a white man. We don't process it as hardships. That's apartheid. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Mm-hmm.
We already live in an apartheid society. And we are doing everything we can to assimilate into a society that was never designed for us to assimilate into and that never wanted us. And we can rebel against that society in a violent way and be killed. Or we can rebel against that society in a spiritual way and be conquerors. But we cannot be conquerors unless we understand that these barbarians who are committing genocide against people around the world are our children. They came from us. It is up to us to discipline them once and for all. And that discipline only comes through us taking this journey, not as humans, not as mere men, but I say that you are Elohim. I say that ye are gods. That's written in Psalms. That's who we have to be. Regardless of how contrary they are, regardless of how evil, unripened Donald Trump is, he's our child.
I hate when you say that.
I know you do. And it's hard to say it sometimes, but he's our child. He's a wayward child. How many of us have in our families people who go totally contrary to their upbringing?
Mm-hmm.
He's our child. And we have to chastise our child. Now, I don't mean him, the man, of course. I'm talking about the mindset of the whole of European males who have that European mindset. They are our children. And they're people who look like us. They're our children. And we must discipline them in a spiritual way. Love and kindness. But most of all, forgiveness. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But since the pill is so hard to swallow, get you some more water to make it easier to swallow, because you got to swallow it. Nothing changes until you swallow it.
think there was someone else that had a question. I'm sorry, Barb, go ahead.
I just have a response to what you just said. You said that we have to discipline through loving kindness and forgiveness. And for someone who manifests anger and hatred, this truly is a type of discipline for them to have to exhibit themselves the thing that they fight against continuously. And so it's just so ironic that what you said is very key and foundational to chastisement. And we think loving kindness and forgiveness is being humble, etc. But it is a powerful quote unquote tool, if you will, if we embrace it. And if we remember where we were when we weren't very loving and when we weren't very kind, before we knew who we really were, what our essence really was, I just think it's so ironic, and it just hit the nail on the head. A loving and kind Donald Trump, a forgiving Stephen Miller. Just envision it.
It's difficult to envision, though.
Yeah.
Well, you said it's a hard pill to swallow. And when you have a hard pill to swallow, you need more water. Well, water is spirit, right?
Yeah.
So we need more intentional spirituality.
Yeah, that
So,
wrong.
there you go.
Wrong.
I'm sorry, y'all. What y'all say? I heard. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
And that does not mean roll over.
Right.
It means don't allow the anger, the negativity to penetrate into your spirit. Because ultimately this is about the bringing the healing of the insanity and the chaos of the lost white brother, which is, I forget where I first heard that.
Good morning, everyone.
George, can I get you to hold on just 1 second? Someone else had a question after Myra, and we've gone on. What was it, you, Rainier? Someone else tried to get in.
No, it's Janice. Hey.
Janice, hi, Janice.
I was just going to comment that if it is indeed something that went wrong is that the election was stolen or there were votes thrown out and it comes out later, that could be maybe what's needed to finally break down a system that is just so clearly wicked and we need to start over. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I think even if that's true, I find a lot of hope in that. And that another way of looking at it is that there are more people who chose a better path, but that better path doesn't look like what we thought it should look like. That was it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Destruction of a country so we can build a nation. George?
Right.
Hey, good morning, everyone. A couple of things I do want to add is Trump is not in office yet. And there are a lot of things that can take place by way of the universe that can prevent him from being sworn in. And there are things by way of energy that can take place when he is sworn in. I'm not that versed in it yet. I do know the District of Columbia, or DC, is designed a certain way by way of engineering. And when a president takes an oath, in that particular spot holds a lot of energy. So he's not in office yet, and a lot of things can happen. He may choke on it. And the universe always has the first word, last word, middle word. It has everything. The other thing that I want to add is, and what Reverend Richard said about the vote does not matter, absolutely, I have to agree with that. What matters to me as an individual is, what do I campaign for? What you campaign
We
for
can't hear you.
friendship. Somebody said something?
Yeah, you went out for a moment. Go ahead.
Go ahead, whoever was
No,
saying
I said we could not hear you for a moment, so continue.
I said the vote does not matter.
Are
Speak
you
up.
on,
We can't hear
George?
you. We can't hear you.
I'll wait. I'll just get a better headset. Y'all have a good one.
Oh, okay. When you get a better headset, or you can increase your volume, please let us know, okay? What George was saying, what I heard of what George was saying, it speaks to the reality of the swearing in of the president. Or because, first of all, I wish he could be inaugurated tomorrow. That's me. I want it over with. However, the monument, the ellipse, Lincoln Memorial, the Capitol are on the same meridian as the obelisk in Egypt. So when we look at it from that perspective, the kinetic energy that we are familiar with, the kinetic the kinetic rhythm that we are familiar with, has opportunity to repurpose the energy that has been used when the swearing in takes place. Yes? Someone about to say something? The side of the Capitol where it's done faces the ellipse, the monument, faces the mall, the monument, Lincoln Memorial, reflection pool, all of that is on the same meridian. I said the ellipse, but I meant the mall. There behind the Capitol. All of those things on the same meridian, as well as other governmental buildings that are involved in governmental issues that are pertinent to what we are dealing with now. So I don't think it's much of an interference as it is a repurposing of energy that is necessary.
Sounds like we've got something to look forward to as we focus on that particular period of time. Much like we did when we meditated on our purpose and what the universe wanted the world to be like. So sounds like an agenda.
I think we can say to the ancestors, we now understand the mission. This shook us. So hold 1 second. This shook us to the point where we are more clear about the mission than we have ever been. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Pastor, you can hear me?
Yeah.
It's Charles.
I have a question.
Mhm.
You know, there's a scripture that says we do not fight against flesh and blood. We
Yeah.
fight against the principalities. So explain that in this what we're going through now.
Okay. The idea of not fighting against flesh and blood is that when we say that, it is not Donald Trump. We're not fighting the man. It's the manifestation. It's the manifestations of the man, their consciousness. It is the mindset that he has. We are dealing with spiritual principalities, meaning that we are dealing with energy that is chaotic. We are dealing with the energy that is out of rhythm with the universe. That's what he's talking about when he talks about principalities. We are dealing with that energy, and facing that energy that is out of rhythm with the universe. It is incumbent upon us to bring that energy back into rhythm, and that process is taking place now with this movement that was instigated by what we saw as a political campaign by Kamala Harris. Does that make sense, Charles?
Yes, sir. It make a whole lot of sense.
Thank
I
you.
understand it a whole lot better.
Thank you. And maybe we'll talk tomorrow about Revelation, some portions of Revelation 13, so we can understand, get a clear understanding of some things there as well, in terms of how the ones who manipulated the Bible did not know that there was leaving truth in it. When it comes to Revelations. So we'll talk about that hopefully tomorrow.
And what chapter was that again?
13.
Thank you.
Kathy,
Pastor,
yes.
this is Roy.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I appreciate what Charles just said, because that's exactly what I was going to add about, us truly remembering who we're battling or what we're battling against. When we walk around in fear, that's not who we are. And obviously there's scriptures that speak of fear. And, the other piece to it is, and you can speak to this, remembering that ignorance doesn't stop because we're in 2024 versus biblical time. I mean, Jesus said on the cross, did he not say? I mean, he said, "Forgive them." And I don't know the exact quote what he said, but that forgiveness, forgiveness came from a place of ignorance. So, this is not me, you, or anybody trying to elevate ourselves above someone else. It's understanding that we deal with a time, and it's always been this way. There's a level of ignorance when it comes to spirituality. There's a level of ignorance, and people that are in power have always been able to influence the mass by, I'll say the word entertaining, rhetoric, whatever you want to call it, but it's always been. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's always been this way. So the question is, I heard you or someone said it earlier, when are we going to get it right and understand that because we know better, we operate differently. We speak to things differently. We educate differently. When you look at our culture as Black people, yes, it's frustrating, but they understand, or however, they understand how to continuously separate us. You made a comment about an individual, those of us being able to be pulled over going into your gated community. At the end of the day, white people know how to keep the slaves, i.e., Black and brown people, with a slave type mentality, how to divide. And now, because they're divided and not together, this is how you're able to get these things to continuously happen versus them, whether we like it or not, they always join together to protect their whiteness. Is that inaccurate to some degree?
They do. They always do. Yes, they do. And those are the children who we have to contend with. Because let me say something about that, Ron.
Okay.
There was a period of time when Scandinavians saw the Spanish and the Italians as being black. They were not considered being white people because of Spain, because of the Moors, and Italy because of Hannibal crossing the Alps. And the division of races did not really become a principal thing until the German sociologist in 1795 maybe did this what we call now eugenics study, according to him, that proved that people of African descent were inferior to white people, and that's when slavery became, race became a justification for separation as well as a justification for enslavement on a wider scale than it always was, than it currently was at that time. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I just appreciate what Roy said, but looking at this thing from a deeper place, that's part of what fuels and divides us, for us to look at them as saying they are always doing something to protect their whiteness. That it is true. It is a true statement. However, when you look at this thing from a spiritual perspective, this is the creator. They're not that smart to continuously do this kind of stuff. This is the creator. So if this is, these are the principalities, these are the powers that are going against each other. This is if we look at it from the perspective that we're talking about now, that empowers people to say, hey, you always outdupe me. You always, no, this is the creator. And this is something to a tool that is being used for us to see who we are and to really, really use this meditation and realize that you are spirit. And you are the one that stands in the gap. You are the one that sees things from, that have all the tools of the universe at your disposal. And we talk about the ancestors, but what is it? We're at a point now that our backs are against the wall. We have to see who we are totally. But to empower somebody and say they're always coming up with smart ways, I once agreed with that, but I don't, because that's empowering somebody. And I don't see that they're that intelligent, and I don't see that they're that spiritual to always jump ahead like that. This is something the Creator allows, and the Creator allows it so that we can see who we are. That's what it all comes back to.
That makes sense. Yeah, right. The whole thing is being orchestrated by the universe. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And yes. For what purpose? Know who we are. Which means that if it's still being orchestrated, we don't know who we are.
Thank you. Yes.
So let me say something to you guys. If nobody else in this world come to an awareness of who they are, we have to. We have to embrace the reality of being Africans, being the children of Akebulon, the children of life. We have to embrace that. Because if we don't, no one else will. I said to you many times, my grandmama said, don't teach anybody anything that you don't believe, and don't ask them to do anything you won't do. We have to embrace that. Because if we are the tip of the spear, we cannot puncture that system to change it. And I mean the system of ignorance, the system that we have been that has been orchestrated by the universe. We can't deal with that unless we are truly have embraced who we are. We have to be those people who have embraced who we are. We cannot be wishy-washy. We cannot say, you know what, I wish all white folk would drop off the face of the earth. We cannot say that, because what we say is power.
Yeah.
If we are going to empower, we must empower each other. We have feared for too long, and the thing that we have feared the most has come upon us. And this is slavery, this is Reconstruction, this is racism on steroids. And the Creator has orchestrated this for the express purpose of, as Ron said, pushing our backs against the wall. We are being forced to live as the children of a Cabelon, children of the sun. We are being forced to do that. And for too long, we have pushed our history, pushed the reality of who we are into the dark recesses of our mind, so we would not have to look at it, because we wanted to go along to get along. No longer can that be. We have been secretive about how damaging Christianity has been to us. That can no longer be. We cannot harbor desires that are antithetical to bringing order to the earth. And what I mean by harbor those things, I'm talking about, we cannot have desires for men like Trump to be eliminated, or for men like Trump not to be sworn in. We desire that. Why? Because obviously that's what the universe desires. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, sir.
It's up to us. If I am leading a platoon, if I'm not willing to put my life on the line, why should I ask those who are in my platoon? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. In this particular case, no, I have no problem giving up this physical life at all. What we have to do is recognize that the death that we must suffer, or that we must not suffer, I'm sorry, the death that we must embrace in order for us to be who we are is the death of being a mere man.
Mm-hmm.
We are not human. We are spiritual. If you are in this world, but not of this world, that means that you are saying that you are spiritual. Anything else is saying that you are human, and we are not. These bodies allow us to function as spiritual beings in a material world for the express purpose of bringing into this world, this earth, a spiritual understanding and acceptance of who we are. We are Elohim in physical bodies, having a physical experience for the purpose of being those who create in our image, in our likeness. And when we bring balance to this earth, when it's manifested, we would have at that point created in our image and in our likeness. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And this is referred to as the browning of America. No, the browning of the earth. This is true. This is not the browning in terms of skin color. This is melanating the whole world. And melanating the whole world deals with emotional change. It deals with a shift in mindset. This is more than a chemical that's called melanin. It's more than that. Melanin is, nothing can live without melanin. So being melanated means that we are to bring the results of melanation into this earth realm. And that is what brings order, that's what brings peace, that's what brings empathy for those who are going through things that are forced upon them by others. And we melanate a mindset. We eliminate a European mindset. But the mindset has to be melanated first. You cannot melanate anyone else's mindset if you don't melanate your own. It's no coincidence that during the Vietnam War, when they did the autopsies, they found that the pineal gland of the African males was larger than that of Caucasians or anybody else on earth. It's no coincidence that they saw that, but it's also no coincidence that there is no explanation to this day as to how light gets into the pineal gland, but it's there constantly. That's who we are.
And if you want to know how to know these things for yourself, if you want to know how to be able to draw from spirit and have that awareness for yourself, it is meditation, meditation, meditation.
And meditation.
Yeah.
That is the thing that allows you to know, capital K, thyself. So that these things we are describing intellectually, you and we must translate what much must is the word I couldn't say there for some reason. Must be sought within and must be made a real part of your awareness and consciousness in order for you to feel them and know them as a part of your being.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Were you finished?
Meditation, meditation, meditation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did this help y'all?
Let me say
Did
this. George dropped off. If anybody talk to him, yeah, he dropped off because I wanted to know if he wanted to finish what he's going to say. Go ahead. Ron?
No, I was just asking, did this help? Did anybody, do you feel better than before you got on the line this morning? Has this brought any easiness to your being, or kind of centered you again? I hope everybody
That's not rhetorical, right?
right.
Yes.
Most
Yes.
definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Thank you guys for your questions and your honesty. And again, tomorrow, if we gonna talk. Have any questions or something? Bring them in. George, are you there?
No, he's not.
Okay. Is there anything else? Anyone else?
I would just like to close out with my own feeling and belief that we are actually in one of the greatest times to be present in the earth ever. And the catalyst that we experience is meant to push us to know thyself. And that is the spiritual victory over all of the sort of chaos and opposition that you face as the keepers of the connection and knowledge in the earth as Africans. Heroes don't get made until the situation is terrible. That is the environment within which the heroes, the Heru, are made and reveal themselves. And that is what we are all called to be when we recognize the signs of the times and the nature of the environment that we are within. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That sounds like a good place to take a pause unless there's anyone else. Don't want to cut anybody off. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thoughts, questions? I greatly appreciated your energy. Sharon, it's nice to meet you. Appreciate your input.
Cheryl, not Shannon.
What I say? Sharon?
Cheryl,
I thought that's what I said, but it's okay.
I'm messing with
Nice
you.
to meet you. Nice to meet you. And till tomorrow, 11 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.